You're about to join Don Neuen, co-host of Cowboy Logic Radio, and Denise Simon, host of the Denise Simon Experience, for a weekly situation report, or SITREP. 18 hours a day, Denise Simon lives her life as an Intel Analyst. 18 hours a day, Don Neuen lives his life in the world of rock and roll. 1 hour each day, Neuen receives a daily SITREP from Simon. Welcome to the Drive Time Situation Report. Fasten your seatbelt. You're now in Don Neuen's car, and he is calling in for his SITREP.
Smello.
What's up, Denise Simon? It's your buddy Don.
You know, law and order. That's what's up.
Or the lack thereof.
Yes.
Well, before we get into it, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to tonight's Drive Time Situation Report. A secure place that you can come to every week where you can rest assured that Denise Simon and I are abiding by the law and doing our best to try to enforce that law, which we abide by. You are listening to a bit of a unique radio show. If this is your first time listening, welcome. I am in my car, driving home after a pathetically grueling day at the office, and I have called in to my trusted compadre, Denise Simon, and she is about to update me on everything that I missed because of having my nose to the grind at work today. Hopefully, she was able to do what she does better than anybody, and that is sift through all the BS and come up with the nuggets that you and I need to know. Now, you may have some technical weird stuff going on because, again, I'm in my car driving home. Denise is down in her bunker in Central Florida about to get wailed on in some capacity, even though, and I'll disclose that you're on the western side of Florida, but you could suffer some effects of this Hurricane Dorian. By the way, Denise, I've been told that why would you name it, or it's appropriate to name this hurricane after men, because they don't follow direction and they meander around slowly like they don't know what they're doing.
Okay.
Do you agree with that in any capacity?
No, not really.
Good, because I'm one of those guys that does follow directions. Therefore, I always get where I'm going. On time, usually early. All right, so, Denise, let's timestamp the show. And I got a few questions for you, but for the most part, I am major league ignorant. I'm kind of like a liberal calling into you tonight.
Okay. Well, it's 9:06 p.m. Eastern on the 3rd day of September in the year of our Lord 2019.
Thank you, and Merry Christmas to you, Denise.
Merry Christmas to you.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, so the first question that I have for you before you get into your punch list of stuff you want to talk about, what do we know about this pathetic individual that was killing people in Odessa and Midland, Texas this past weekend? What do we know about him thus far?
Well, he was a nutcase, and he did not pass a background check to buy a weapon, so he bought it on a private sale. He had on the record, he had, some minor things in his rap sheet, if you will. But
his dossier.
But what he had been doing is calling the police and calling the FBI constantly, rambling about it was a nut job. He'd been fired earlier in the day from his job, and he called the FBI that very day. So
hold on a second. Did he call the FBI or local law enforcement at all before the rampage day?
yes, several times.
Okay. So there was plenty of advance bizarre notice by this guy.
Correct, which is the reason I think that they had essentially put a little check mark by him, and that's probably the reason he did not pass a background check.
But it was so incoherent and weird, they had no idea what he was even talking about, right?
Correct. And he lived in a place that, if you could even call it a place, he had no running water and no electricity. He really lived in a shack. And he apparently bought a lot for $9,600, of which it had this shack on it. There were a couple. It was a place, I guess, to at some point to be developed in the future, or something. I don't know. But he didn't. There was an exchange that he had with a female neighbor about putting garbage in the wrong place or something, and it came out that he threatened her with a weapon. Well, he didn't. He got into a confrontation with her. It wasn't really a terrible confrontation, but he happened to be carrying a weapon. He didn't threaten her with a weapon. Although, so one of the other neighbors, if you can really call them neighbors, said, he kept to himself and I never had any issues with them. Then there was some chatter that he used to pick off wild animals using a weapon. So we don't know how long he'd actually had this weapon. But clearly, the guy was off the rails. Okay? And so the Democrats in all of this, we need background checks. We have background checks. Background checks worked in this situation. He could not buy a weapon legally.
Well, they need to make it, the Democrats would like it to make it more illegal
Well, then
right?
let's just do it this way. Instead of talking about background checks and red flag laws and, weapons of war and all this, then why don't we just ask the right question? Are you really saying that you are going to demand that the Second Amendment be repealed? Let's just go right to the chase.
Yeah. Did you hear Biden? Hey, did you hear Biden recently? Where he said that we need to limit or ban all magazines that hold multiple rounds.
More than one round.
Right. Now, we're both pretty savvy when it comes to firearms and weapons and things like that. Have you ever seen a single bullet magazine?
No, but I can't wait to see one.
I bet it's light. What do you think?
It only takes AAA batteries.
Yeah, I got you. Oh, man. All right. Hey, let me ask you a question about this character, this POS, this sick, twisted bastard. Because that's what kills people like this. Whether they fall on the left side of the political aisle, the right side, no side, you have got to be a sick, twisted bastard to do something like this, right? Nobody will disagree with that.
Correct.
Okay. Where did he sit politically? Because most of them are leftists.
I have no idea.
Well, I would say since they're not disclosing that kind of stuff, and we went for 2 days with all of us only reading that he was a white male, my gut's telling me that he was a lib, Denise.
To me, it doesn't matter.
No, you're right. It doesn't matter. But I'm sick and tired of the left bitching and complaining and pointing fingers at law-abiding, lawful citizens that own firearms for this kind of sick, twisted crap.
But look, Don, I mean, lawful abiding citizens have been losing snippets of all of their rights all along, and we've done nothing. I mean, let's talk about the First Amendment. We've taken.
Hold on, we can't talk about that. We can't talk about that right now.
Right.
Merry Christmas, Denise.
See, we're in a situation here that we can't do certain things on campus now, and you have to be in a Constitution-free zone. You have to have permits. You have to be approved. You know, your religion means nothing. You remember little Kim Davis, the little clerk over there in Kentucky?
Yeah.
Do you know that her case is still out there?
I wouldn't doubt it.
Yes. Okay, so her religion, along with, you know, the bakers and, you know, the florists, their religion means nothing. And so we're not putting, I've said this a million times, they've taken away so much of the First Amendment that we didn't say a word about. And so now they're coming after the Second. Well, right. We didn't do anything about the first, so why wouldn't they come after the second? And then we can go to pretty much every single one of them. You know, illegal search and seizures. I mean, not only is government doing it, but you've got tech companies that are doing it. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, we deserve what we get. Or we get what we deserve. Is that the same thing?
Yeah, sadly it is. So what were you talking about when we first started the confab here about lawfulness?
Look, what we have lost is decency. We've lost decency all the way around. If we had decency, we'd have law and order. So we don't have any decency. So as a consequence, we also don't have any law and order. And I would argue that Trump needs to go back and into his campaign when he's in his campaign mode, and he needs to be promoting decency and law and order. I mean, that's just where we are. It's really quite remarkable to me that we've got Kate Steinle's murderer, who's now, the charges have been dropped against this cat. He got deported, 7-8 times? Yeah. He kills her. So, he's exonerated for that. Then he's exonerated just recently for a weapons charge. And now the federal charge against him has been dropped.
What is the basis? I was appalled at that. What is the basis for all of these charges being dropped?
I have no idea. This goes to public safety. And if you don't have law and order, you don't have public safety. And if you don't have decency, you don't have law and order, and you don't have public safety. I mean, we've got typhus out there. We've got measles out there. We've got, these diseases. That's public safety. Nobody speaks of that. We have got sanctuary cities where they're a protected class over us. I mean, we're up to the 9th person in Maryland, the 9th illegal immigrant that has raped a girl just in the last month.
Yeah, again, you got to look at liberalism for this. That's what's spawning this. That's what's procreating everything that you're talking about. The indecency, the societal indecency is bred by liberal ideology and liberal-run politicians and cities. That's where it's coming from.
We get it. We get it. It's from Oakland to Seattle to Portland to San Francisco to Chicago to New York. We get it. The question is that we have no functional operational plan. Conservative radio talk show is more common today than it ever was. It's bigger. It has a larger reach. But what are we doing about? What are we doing? We whine. We're whining. Well, what's the plan? What's the plan? Because I don't see one.
Yeah, the left is stellar at unification and mobilization. The right does not.
Let's look at these candidates here for a second. These 20 some odd Democrat candidates. Let's take a bird's eye view of these people. Everything from a Cory Booker who wants to spend $3 trillion on a climate change plan, and he calls it Environmental Justice Fund. $3 trillion. Then you got Beto, who is demanding gun confiscation, where they're going to buy back weapons. Then you have all of them that raise their hand that we're going to give free health care to all the illegals. I mean, look, and you got Elizabeth Warren, who is taking on, corporate America. Bernie Sanders taking on corporate America. Let's compare just for a second. Even if we go back to as crazy as Bill Clinton was, he wasn't even this radical in policy-wise. Let's go back further to Johnson or Kennedy or, I mean,
FDR.
Yes.
Woodrow Wilson. Teddy Roosevelt.
Is this really the best that we have? I mean, really?
It's unidentifiable, Denise. I've been saying it for almost 2.5 years now. The left has become unrecognizable. And again, you're right. What am I doing? I'm sitting here complaining about it. I'm beating the same drum week after week after week. I am telling people that the only way that we're able to fight this truly is in a voting booth. It's the only way that we can get rid of them if we can get around voter fraud.
I'm not even convinced that's it, because look what we had a majority of both houses. What did we get done?
0.
Okay, now we have a Republican in the White House. What are we getting done?
Very little.
Okay, so it's not. I think it goes beyond voting. It goes back to some kind of ground game, and I've struggled now for a whole week while I was doing all this hurricane prep for a hurricane that's not coming my way, thank goodness. While I'm thinking about all this, I'm thinking, what are we're floundering here. We're rudderless, and I'm angry. I'm frustrated about it.
Well, one thing that we can do is, as conservatives and libertarians, we can absolutely label, and this is something that you suggested years ago to me, label these people for exactly what they are. Label for the frauds, the hypocrites, the socialists, for that matter, the Marxists, the fascists, and the communists. Label them. Label them in social media constantly. And not just the politicians. Any of these liberal pukes that get onto social media and make absolutely false claims, lies, just twisted stuff that you actually laugh at. It's so bizarre. When you're done laughing, label them, retweet their post, and call them out for what they are. That's what Jane Doe, sitting in her bathrobe at 10:30 at night, noodling around on Facebook or Twitter, can do. Go after them. Now, of course, you're going to end up in social media jail for 30 days.
And so you'll be doxxed. And they'll dox you.
Yep. What do you suggest?
I don't know. That's what I'm saying. Look, Boris Johnson today suffered a huge defeat in Parliament because they're going to stop the Brexit. Now, the voters voted for it. We sat here on world TV and watched that vote on the BBC. And
right.
The Parliament, just like our own government, doesn't care about us, the voters. They don't care about them over in Britain, and they don't care about us here. So it's kind of like, well, I really just don't know what to do. I'm as frustrated as I can be. I think I go, okay, we'll go after this and we'll go after that. It's not enough. The powers are so great. We don't want to be globalists, so okay, we get called nationalists. All right, well then we say no, it's a matter of sovereignty. Well, we can't defeat the headwinds on globalism. I mean, we're here talking about for 2 years about a trade deal with China. Well, that's globalism. I don't care if we ever have a trade deal with China. China is a rogue nation. China is a drug cartel. China is a thief. China is a counterfeiter. Why do we want to do business with them? And okay, so let's say we don't. Then we're going to go to some other nation. Well, are they going to be any better unless we exercise some kind of power over them? And trying to bring these people around to have, some kind of law and order, legitimate government, I think it's a Herculean task anymore. If you look at all these governments, I mean, I'm looking at Iran. France. France wants to bail out Iran with $3 billion. What?
Why does that not just stun me?
I mean, in all these conversations, Macron's okay with, as much as we have said, do you know, has anybody even read the file on Iran in the history? And you want to still give them $3 billion? Hell, the United States gave them all this money, and what did that get us? Now we've got this rogue ship floating around. No, we're not sending it to Syria. Well, yeah, it is going to Syria. It turned off the transponders. We can't even, we can't now find it.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, you are able to fight the fight. And so far, this first segment of the Drive Time SITREP has been a whole lot of what are we doing? What are we going to do? Here's the problems. Here's the problems. Here are the problems. When we come back after the break, hopefully we're going to have some more solutions for you. But one that is very true and very, very valid.
Well, look.
Many of you people are on social media.
You had Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's chief of staff, this Zach Robardi fellow, whatever his name is. Okay, he got together with a whole bunch of people over a weekend and concocted a new Green Deal or Green New Deal, whatever the heck it is. All right? And that just blew up everybody. So you had 2 or 3 people that mobilized some kind of twisted brain matter and came up with some ridiculous thing. All these Democrats bought to it. McConnell brings it up for a vote. Not one of them voted for it, but they all supported it. Now, that was done by just 2 or 3 people. What are we doing? We don't have anything like that. Where is our little confab of some brain power that we're going to introduce something that will send all of these communist Marxists over to the corner and tell them to sit down and shut up over there for the next 10 years.
Well, here's a big problem, Denise, and until we can figure out a way to solve this one, it's going to be very difficult. These twisted leftists have the big power brokers in the mainstream media doing all of their work for them. They are the megaphone for these people. And you've got good, solid American citizens that are spewing back crap that the mainstream media puts out. And you and I and our beloved listeners sit around all day and go, no, that's a complete lie. No, that's fraud. No, that's an untruth. But they're buying into it. They're being indoctrinated with this sick stuff. We got to go to break. When we get back, we're going to pick up right where we left off. Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to the Drive Time SITREP with Denise Simon. My name is Don Neuen. We're going to be back in 2 minutes.
Check us out on the web at cowboylogic.us.
Welcome back to the Drive Time SITREP, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Don Neuen. You've got on the other end of this conversation Denise Simon. I am cascading down I-20 on freshly new paved interstate, Denise. Can you tell how quiet it is in the car?
Wow.
Yeah.
All lanes open?
Nights, right now, all lanes open. All those nights of sitting, driving at 4.5 miles an hour on I-20 West is paying off for the Drive Time SITREP because I don't have constant changes in the decibel level of the interstate and my tires hitting it. That is a good thing for the Drive Time SITREP. All right, Denise, let's pick up where we left off or leave us all on a complete downer and move on to another subject.
All right, well, here's the segue. The segue is where I actually wanted to head with this conversation is that now we have universities that have introduced a whole new set of classes. And these classes are called Adulting 101. And I pulled up just a couple of universities. University of Nebraska. Another one is University of South Carolina. Okay? I mean, I'm not going to the really liberal schools. I'm going to, two that are moderate schools, I would say, if there is such a thing as a moderate university anymore. But now we're having to teach Adulting 101. Why are we having to teach that? Because the syllabus for years in the public school system, going back, I would say 20 years, has failed. So now we're going to have to teach these people at the college level how to be adults. Now, what's in those? And it's because schools have failed and parents have failed. Well, what's in these classes? Glad you asked. And oh, by the way, any high school students that want to attend, they can attend these as well. But we're going to teach them.
Get extra points. Extra points for attending the adulting class.
Right, for juniors and seniors. But we're going to teach them life skills. Because we're not teaching. Nobody taught anybody life skills. So we're back to, if they don't have any life skills, then I would say that we don't have any decency and because we don't have law and order. But all right, here we go.
And let me guess, Denise, nobody's really embarrassed about having to teach or take this class, right?
No, they're desperate. Now here's
man.
And it's not just a class, by the way. There's Adulting 101, 102, and 103. 101.
Oh, yeah, a whole year's worth.
We're going to teach things like tax preparation, personal finance. This is a good one. Professionalism, career readiness. This one I really love. Laundry. Staying healthy in college.
I know you're not kidding.
I'm reading. The day will be structured in a way that allows students to choose topics that are of interest to them that may include tax preparation, personal finance, professionalism, career readiness, dorm living, laundry, and staying healthy in college. During the applied learning portion of the day, students will have the opportunity to have resumes critiqued, have professional headshots taken, participate in mock interviews, learn about professional attire, and this one's a good one. Learn basic car maintenance. Students are welcome to bring their resumes and or dress professionally for their headshot photos. At the conclusion of the day, UNK, University of Nebraska, admissions invites you to stick around. If your schedule allows for a campus tour, blah, 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 blah. Okay. Now let's truck on over to University of South Carolina, shall we? Ask any recent college student what they wish they had learned in high school, and you may hear many things, like how to properly budget money or how credit works. While understanding these topics like these critical to successful life, receiving the information in a classroom setting is unlikely for many students. After realizing that learning skills like these can make a transition to adult life easier, The Capstone Scholars Program began an adulting workshop series. I mean, while paying a mortgage may not be at the top of the list for college students, learning how to cook and handle finances is something other than ramen noodles. So
stop right there. Stop right there for a second. I vividly remember from about the 8th grade on being exposed to almost everything that you're talking about. And I would assume so did you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Almost everything. If not everything that you just mentioned, I had between the grades of 8 and 12 at the Lovett School in Atlanta or at Northside School of Performing Arts in Atlanta. Those were my two schools that I went to during those 4 years.
Look,
I had all of that, or had the opportunity to take it.
Just the other day, I had a lawnmower that wouldn't start. Okay? So what did I do? I trotted on over to YouTube and said, okay, what's the common reason that a lawnmower won't start? Generally, there's crap in the carburetor. All right. So after spending 10 minutes on YouTube for some guy that knows more about small engines than I do, I took the blasted thing apart. I cleaned this. I did that. I did blah, 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 blah. Put the whole thing back together again, including all these tiny little filters. They're about this, they're smaller than a fingernail, and all these other kinds of things. And put some gas in it, man, every. Okay. Now I'm going places at my old age that I've never been, but I'm happy to go there. I don't need to go lift the thing up, put it in my truck, and drive to some place and hand it over to somebody. Then I'm going to have to spend, $120 for them to fix it, and I won't get it back for a week.
Yeah, but you know what, Denise? You were raised in a world, as was I, as was Donna, and as was most of our beloved listeners, an era of critical thinking.
Self-reliance. So we have this workshop at this semester. We're having a cooking class, and we're going to use we're going to learn about month-to-month budgets, debit cards versus credit cards, or cash, credit scores, how to break your financial make or break your financial purchases. We're going to go into a kitchen. We're going to learn about diets, and we're going to have dietitians there. How to chop an onion without crying. What? It says what it says. It says, and learn a few valuable skills like how to make a simple, healthy meal and how to chop an onion without crying. Quote, one of the major adjustments to moving off campus is the lack of a meal plan. Many turn to eating out, which can be expensive and unhealthy.
Uber Eats, man. Call Uber Eats. This is a joke. This is a freaking joke, Denise.
But it's not. It is, but it isn't. At least the schools are realizing, can you imagine our military? But at least these schools are realizing that we've got a bunch of zombies that show up as freshmen. Because they're not learning this at home, and they're not learning this in school. So they're not learning anything.
I was going to bring that up. How much of what you just talked about did your parents teach you? Because the majority of what you talked about, I know for a fact I taught my boys. I know for a fact they learned it.
When my dad was home, my dad traveled the world constantly. But when he was home and he was doing, my dad was born and raised on a farm. He was the 13th of 15 children. Okay. So you had to be self-reliant. And so, when he was home and he was going to do this and this and this, I just watched. And, kids they're like absorbent sponges. They just watch. But what do we do now? We're a throwaway society. The lawnmower doesn't work. Chuck it and go buy another one.
Yeah, when a kid's 6 years old, you give them an iPhone or a tablet and tell them to go sit down and be quiet.
Right. And here's a cookie.
Big problem.
And so,
hold on a second. I've always said that I blame this thing I'm holding in my hand right now broadcasting this radio show on the failure of children and young adults to be productive. This thing right here, this phone.
Well, look, Hurricane Irma 2 years ago knocked the power out in my area for 9 days. And it wasn't so much being without power. I got by all that. It was hot. It was just hot, no air conditioning.
I bet you stunk. Did you stink?
No, you can go take a shower.
Were you right?
No, you can take a shower. It's going to be, it's not going to be hot water, but it's hot anyway. You don't want hot water, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I don't know.
Here,
Somebody told me you smelled pretty bad.
Oh, well, thank you, Don.
I'm kidding, Denise. Keep going. Carry on.
The biggest thing that was missing was information, because everybody else out there was getting information about our hurricane except us.
Right.
This is where your first responders are. I mean, we had access to one radio, and that was the weather service. But we don't know where first responders are. We don't know where we can go get gasoline to go put it in our generators.
Right. Right.
From last Thursday up until yesterday, there wasn't a gas station within 10 miles of me, and we're not affected by this Hurricane Dorian, okay? But we had no gas, none, zero, because all the gas trucks went over to the East Coast.
Correct.
So so now you have to be resourceful. You have to be very, very resourceful. And imagine what somebody would do if they had to give up their cell phone, their smartphone, their smart TV for a week. Imagine what they would do without air conditioning for a week. Imagine what they would do without having access to any vehicle because there's no gasoline for a week. I mean, think about that. 50% of this country would absolutely go stark raving mad. It would go into a tailspin.
Many of us would really appreciate that as the excuse for being able to put all these things down, though. But I get your point. I really do. And by the way, Denise, I would not have, if I lost power for a week or 9 days like you did, it would be very difficult for me to have water for a shower because I have a well. I would have to go cleanse myself in the creek.
Okay, so be it.
Nobody told me you smelled. I was kidding. You got all chapped about that.
No, it's just, you do what you have to do. And I was happy to take a cold shower.
I bet you were.
If for nothing else, I put a whole bunch of extra chlorine in the pool, and I was happy to jump in the pool.
Well, see, some of us aren't the 2%ers, the evil 1%ers, and have pools, Denise.
Understood.
We have water troughs, though, 100-gallon water troughs.
But you know what? You have a hurricane that's coming. What's the first thing you do? You go get a whole bunch of gasoline, and you get a whole bunch of water. Two things that are necessary: gasoline and water.
Yeah, true. Point well taken. All right, how much time?
Practical skills.
All right, got 14 minutes. Now, let's move away from prepper. And what else do you want to talk about?
Well, it was really self-reliance.
This guy's not. I get it, and that's what prepping is. I can't believe that we don't know. And again, I agree with you. It doesn't necessarily matter. But the point needs to be driven home that the majority of these mass shootings that are taking place are not done by libertarians or conservatives. You and I have talked about that many times. And the left is so quick to beat that drum and start ranting and raving about this crap when none of them, including the former Vice President of the United States, even has a clue as to what he's talking about. That's the other thing. Misinformation. You were talking about this adulting 101 class. Again, yes, this stuff starts at home. Yes, this has been a failure of the education system in America for decades and decades and decades. But it also has to do with this mainstream media that's absolutely spewing forth fraud, fraudulent news.
So if these people don't know how to literally cook, boil water to make ramen noodles, or they don't know how to get through a day without calling Uber, or, what's the difference between a credit card and a debit card, how do we expect them to vote right?
We don't.
Okay. So, voting, we go back to these talking points that we got now Ted Cruz, who's in a Twitter war with Deborah Messing over, gun rights and blah, 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 blah. And they've actually agreed to meet. This is like a David and Goliath kind of thing here, isn't it?
Jeez. He's going to meet with her to debate this?
Yeah. She wants it on national television. I'm fine with that. Let's do it. What are these people?
As long as it is televised in its entirety, where he can wipe the floor with her.
What are we supposed to use for self-defense? What are we supposed to use for self-defense?
I know exactly what I'm using.
Okay, but they've repealed the Second Amendment. That's what they're doing. Nobody will admit it, but they're repealing it piece by piece by piece by piece, including Walmart, I might add.
Yep.
Okay, so what are we supposed to use for self-defense?
Are you asking me that question?
Yeah, you can't use a weapon. What are you going to use?
I'm using a weapon.
You can't.
More than lave, woman.
Shame on us.
Come and take it.
Shame on us.
I agree with you. Hey, listen, you and I were talking about this during the Obama administration. We were all concerned about not them taking away the weapons, taking away the ammo. Without ammo, weapons are useless.
Start saving your brass and making your own.
Yeah. I haven't stopped stocking up, and I know you haven't either.
Well, what you're going to end up having now is you're going to end up with a black market, and we're going to end up buying ammunition from the Russians or the Chinese. And if we buy them from the Chinese, it'll probably be, our, bad quality and probably blow up in our weapon anyway. But
well, I can tell you this: Russian ammo sucks.
Yeah. So, but that's what we're going to have to do, right? Can't get it at Walmart anymore. Hello, Dick's Sporting Goods.
Dick's Sporting Goods. What an appropriate name. I don't even drive past them. I drive around them.
Well, we're in trouble. And I don't want this show to be a downer, but I'm just trying to put some things in context. If you've got universities that are teaching Adulting 101, and we expect these people of voting age to vote, with a legitimate knowledge to vote, we can't. And so we've got the 20 candidates, 22, whatever this number is. And they're preying on the stupidity of the American people. And I would be doing the same thing because the American people are just not doing any strategic thinking.
All right.
Therein lies the problem.
Let me do some strategic thinking about this Adulting 101, 102, and 103 courses that are being offered at higher education institutions. Higher education mental institutions. Now, if we're dealing with mush minds that actually have to be taught how to heat up water to make ramen noodles, and a great deal of this is because of failures in the education system as well as at home. I'm not marginalizing that. But failures in the upbringing of our children. What the hell is to make us think that this Adulting 101, 102, and 103 is not going to be more indoctrination that is not going to do any good, but quite frankly could do more harm?
Yeah, because now we're going to tell them, hey, we don't want you eating ramen noodles. We want you to have acorn and alfalfa sprouts. Now
I'll eat kale. Donna's got me eating kale and salmon and whitefish, and that wasn't racist. It's just the color of the fish. Well, you got to qualify all this stuff. Remember, the first thing you were talking about was the First Amendment. We can't even describe, hey, listen, I just drove over a manhole.
Shame
Not allowed
on you.
to do that.
No.
Yeah. Yep. Oh, man.
Yeah, see, if I was the Department of Education right now, I'd be really quite embarrassed. If I was
a minute ago.
If I were the teachers' unions, I'd be quite embarrassed. In fact, I'd be working to blow up the teachers' unions, because I would say
that
I would say that these teachers' unions, have become beyond worthless, and they ought to be defunded.
Well, beyond worthless is detrimental. They've become detrimental to the youth. You know, Neil Borch has been saying this statement for years and years and years. The Department of Education is child abuse.
It's activism.
And I could not agree with him more now that you've just shared with us the Adulting 101, 102, and 103 syllabus. I mean, I actually thought you were kidding, and I know you never, ever kid, ever, except when you have grapefruit in a pair of pantyhose.
That was great.
That was what?
That was great. That was a great night.
Yeah,
but anyway.
I mean, yeah. How many years ago was that, though?
3.
Okay, that's the last time you joked around, at least with me.
I don't think that we have some kind of a grasp on really how ugly and twisted things are nationally and globally. I mean, I look at this stuff and try and keep a sky view of it all, and it's really quite remarkable. Then you have to kind of come down to the ground level, and you get the Beto O'Rourke's and the Cory Bookers and the Joe Bidens and the Kamala Harrises and the Elizabeth Warrens, and you think, okay, these people are running for the highest office in the land, and for the most powerful office, I would say in some cases globally, and this is the best we can get out of these people.
Denise, let me ask you a question that you're just not going to be able to answer, but I hope that it'll drive the point home even further. What do you think God thinks?
I think he's punishing us. I think he's saying, you guys are idiots, and I'm kind of proving it here. You guys need to be self-reliant, go back to some decency, go back to some, love thy neighbor, go back to having some kind of moral compass.
How about just, hey, let me back in your life?
Yes.
I think God's looking down on us going, I've got your answer here. You might want to let me back in the house.
But you know what? Any kind of religion, any kind of church-going Christian doctrine is not in vogue. It has been sidelined. It's just not the cool thing. We all have to be edgy, and we all have to be extreme. And because we now have to teach basic how-tos from ages 16 to 25 in Adulting 101, we're finding out that living edgy and extreme ain't working.
Yeah.
University of Virginia. There's another one. They actually published a book a PhD, professor of economics, director of undergraduate studies, the Economics Department, University of Virginia. Adulting 101 is a great resource for young people who are getting started in the real world. Oy.
Hey, you know, Denise, you and I have mentioned this before in past conversations. Donna and I, on a nightly basis, I should say, are watching reruns off of MeTV. Now, I don't know if you get that on your cable subscriber or provider, but we're watching things like Perry Mason and Mannix and Cannon and Westerns and shows like even Leave It to Beaver, because we have such a desire to live in a society like we lived in 30, 40, 50 years ago, when there was decency, when there was civility, when there wasn't social media.
And when we have somebody like Brett Kavanaugh, who is probably the epitome of decency, was
abused.
He was tarred and feathered. And
that was just okay by the left and the media. It was just acceptable.
Unbelievable.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, Denise and I sure do appreciate the fact that you have given us an hour of your valuable time listening to the Drive Time SITREP. If you thought this show was helpful to you, if you enjoyed it, we would encourage you to share this information and information about our show to your friends and family. We got a big fight ahead of us, ladies and gentlemen, and it's not going to end with the 2020 election, although clearly it's extremely critical that we somehow don't lose what little power we've got and what little voice we have. If the Democrats take over, the voice is gone. The voice is gone. And I just don't know if we could get it back. Denise, let's take it home.
All right. Thanks for being with us. God bless America.
Check us out on the web at cowboylogic.us.